I'm Hannah.
Oh, wait. Sorry. And I'm Celine.
And that is a rocky start to our news. Yeah. Welcome back to another news update at the We Are podcast. So today we're filming on Sunday the 16th. Tomorrow's Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Yeah.
So we'd like to recognize everyone who's faced discrimination and just recognize his history and legacy and what he did.
Like his lasting impacts because I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you know about like his speech, I Have a Dream, and all his work like advocating for rights for black people, but he really was like a brave figure in history, and like look, we have a day dedicated to him because he was such a memorable person who did a lot of good stuff for our world. And he was one of the main reasons actually why I feel like we kind of transitioned into a more like
he kind of literally like, single-handedly ended segregation,
less segregated, more fair world. And we still have work to do, which is important to recognize, but it's also important to like kind of reflect on how far we've come. So it's just like
all right, just respect his legacy, learn more about it.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
so
we should do an episode about him sometime.
We should. And just like kind of like that time period too, like segregation and like slavery and just like major like figures who kind of.
Because I feel like for the longest time I was confused between segregation and slavery.
I don't know. I feel like I thought they were the same thing.
Me too. Going on to our first update of the day. So, the Supreme Court blocked a vaccine mandate for large companies. I think we've talked about this before, but basically, by the Biden administration, which is like the president's entire group, they wanted to like make all like large corporate companies like Costco, Target, like whatever, who aren't already mandating vaccines. He would like force it so that under the government they'd have to mandate vaccines.
Right.
So he wanted to do that. Did not go as planned.
Oh, that's not good.
So the Supreme Court like issued a stay of the on this. They ordered like the stay of the vaccine or you have to get tested. For private businesses, but for the big, like, large businesses, by a 6-3 vote with 3 liberal justices, which are the 3 that voted against it, decided that it wouldn't be, like, fair. And the court reasoned that it exceeded its authority to regulate the workplace safety. So, yeah, I mean, it is very controversial. I think there definitely should be an option to at least test if you don't want to get vaccinated.
And there is, right?
I think there is.
It's like you have to test like once a week, but a lot of people don't like that either because they're like, oh, you're making me like get tested once a week. That's really bad. I don't want to do that either. So it's like they're giving you the choice, but a lot of people don't want to do either. So it's like they are mad. So
yeah. So yeah, they're just like glad that that's happened. And like again, there's so many people under like large corporate businesses that it would be really hard to like make sure that it was authentic if they did get vaccinated. So yeah, so the judges that like were against it, like the Democratic judges, they said, in our view, the court's order seriously misapplies the applicable legal standards, and so in so doing it stymies the federal government's ability to counter the unparalleled threat that the COVID-19 poses to our nation's workers. So it was super controversial because some people on one hand like if you're saving lives then it should be a thing. Other people on the other hand is like we live in a democracy.
It's like there's a whole like personal choice we have to choose for ourselves, but then there's also like the part about like helping coronavirus and helping our country get better and like saving people. So it's like it's controversial for sure.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like I'm all for vaccinations, but I don't know, like on such a large scale, I think
it's a big move.
Yeah, like, it's such a big move that I don't know, maybe we're moving too fast with it.
I don't know. I mean, I do think it is important to take big steps a lot of the time. So like I'm not really sure. Like I think the bad thing that came out of it was the backlash, and I think it really just depends, Yeah,
I think at least there should be a testing requirement, which there is. So I think that's
because when you add in the testing requirement, that is gonna make less people mad. and it's
I feel like that's more fair because you can't really say like you have to get injected or you lose your job. There should also be the option for testing, which I think is good. But I mean, with testing, honestly, kind of.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, we'll see where it goes,
Yeah. Our next update is a very depressing one. Celine, take it away.
So the U.S. COVID hospitalizations hit a new record. So as we know, like Omicron is becoming like a big thing, and like at least for me and like Ahana, I think both of us, like so many people we know are like getting sick, and like so many people have had it with like the new variant. Like I feel like everyone at our school is legitimately sick. Like all the time, everyone's sick.
No, like half of our friends have gotten COVID.
Seriously, and it's like. So the Omicron-driven surge has sent COVID-19 hospitalizations like so high, like higher than they've been in a really long time, reaching a new pandemic high this week with 145,982 patients hospitalized. Like that is a lot of people
to hospitalize, not even like case.
Yeah, and so guess what? This actually exceeds the previous record of January last year. Think of January last year where we are, and think of now. Like we're in a worse place than we were back then, which is kind of like a big deal because
and I feel like we care way less now.
Yeah, I feel like we've given up, because it's just been like 2 years and we're just like done with it all. And I mean, I understand that it does get tiring, but we also still have to make sure we're being safe and like understand the threat of, especially with the new variant Omicron. But according to data tracked by the Department of Health and Human Services, like the previous record in January of last year was 5,400 hospitals in the country. Yeah, so like patients with COVID fill 30% of ICU beds. Like think about that. That's like almost half. That's not almost half, but like,
it's like 1/3.
1/3. Thank you. They fill 1/3 of beds, hospital beds in the ICU. So that's like you have all the other people with like chronic conditions or like all these other sicknesses, and then you have the patients with COVID, which make up a very large percentage. These numbers are just a sign of how quickly Omicron has swept the country. Infections are at record levels, and the U.S. is averaging more than 700,000 cases a day, which is a lot of cases. Researchers and health workers are saying that like crowded conditions could be causing this, and obviously like
people just
Omicron.
letting their guard down.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for sure. And also the people who aren't vaccinated or the people who like don't wear masks, there's a lot of stuff going into it. And also I think the vaccinations aren't quite as protective against Omicron as they are against other variants, so that's also, and if you don't get your booster, then it like kind of wears off over time. So I think it's like a lot of different things in one. Hospitals it's really taking a toll on them, like hospitals all over the country, honestly. John Lynch, who's like a doctor at UW Medicine in Seattle, said, quote, "We are closer to a crisis situation than we ever have been," which is like a lot because we've been through like 2 years of this pandemic, and if this is one of the worst points at the pandemic, that is kind of scary. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, many states have like declared states of emergencies, like Maryland, and a lot of people are cracking down. Like I know our school is like considering going online. Like we haven't like actually done it.
They literally would rather go online than mandate masks.
That's so stupid. Like our school isn't mandating masks, but they're like, yeah, we might go online. I'm like, why don't we mandate masks? Like, why are you not mandating masks? I don't understand.
Some people make me question.
And it's like,
anyway,
and it's definitely I would recommend wearing a mask. Like, that would be a recommendation. Even if you are vaccinated, I do think it's important. Like, especially at like school, like or like bigger gatherings. Like if you like go to like a movie theater or something, then I think, or like even like a store. Like I think for a while I actually was going to the store sometimes without a mask on, and now I'm like going with a mask on because I'm like,
Yeah.
So
anyway, getting the COVID news out of the way. Actually, how about we do another COVID news?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of related. So last week we talked about Novak Djokovic. He's all over the news.
Oh, God. I remember him.
Literally everywhere. Everyone's talking about him.
Your favorite tennis player.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
He was a 20-time Grand Slam winner, tied with the two other previous world number one players, and he is the current world number one player. So the best player in the world in tennis refused to get vaccinated, and now he's kicked out of Australia officially. So, what happened previously, just for a little bit of a recap, if you want to get the full story, check out our past week's news updates. But basically what happened was he said that he was exempt from getting vaccinated because he got COVID previously. And so they allowed him an exemption, but when he actually got to Australia, the administration, like the Australian government, said that it wasn't a good enough reason not to get vaccinated, which makes sense because like just getting COVID is way less protective than the vaccine.
Right.
So they revoked his visa, which is what you need to like go into a country and travel, right? Mm-hmm. And so then he challenged it in a court case, and he got it back. And then they revoked it again. and he challenged it again, but now he officially lost that challenge.
That really sucks for him.
Yeah, so the court rejected his visa again. And he deported to Australia on an Emirates flight for Dubai.
Isn't it Emirates? Or is it Emirates?
I think it's Emirates.
Okay, fine.
Continue. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But he won last year, and he really wanted to win because then that would mean that he has won the most major tennis tournaments ever, which are called Grand Slams.
Right.
And I play tennis, so I know, like, I used to really like him, but...
Not anymore.
Ruined my entire view.
Yeah, I don't know.
But basically, yeah, it was, yeah. They said that, like, it was kind of unfair to, like, the health of the Australian public, and they actually cited, like, one part of their, like, visitors, like, laws, and one of them said that, like, if they bring a threat to, like, the Australian community, then they can get their visa revoked, and so, yeah, but it was sad. So,
yeah,
he will not be competing in this Australian Open. He already left. Sucks for him, I guess, but I guess he kind of deserved it because, like, you know, you should get vaccinated, especially if you're playing, like a very, very, like, top-tier game in a tournament, then you should understand that, like, you're going to be traveling so much, and if you get COVID, then, like, game's over for you because your lungs will be affected, your brain will be affected. Even from an athletic standpoint, you won't be able to function how you would on the court, which could literally affect your playing so much.
Yeah.
Which is stupid, but sucks for him.
Yeah,
kind of deserved it.
He's not. Yeah, let's just say he's not in a good place right now, but I mean, it's kind of his own doing when you think about it a little bit, so yeah.
All right,
so my next update is that an underground volcano erupts, which sets off a tsunami. So an underwater... I'm so sorry, I literally can't speak. An underwater volcano erupted on Saturday near Tonga, which is like a remote Pacific region, and the explosion of the volcano sent plumes of ash and smoke into the atmosphere like thousands of miles, and then later on a 4-foot tsunami wave hit Tonga's capital. Witnesses said they even saw like ash fall from the sky, and so sometimes volcanoes can like trigger tsunamis, so basically like the waves from the water in the tsunami can be caused by, like, the displacement of water created by volcanic disruption or a volcano's slope failure or, like, by an explosion or collapse of the volcanic, like, chambers. Those all can, like, lead to, like, a tsunami. So the sound of the volcanic eruption, which is actually really crazy, could be heard from really far away, from as far as New Zealand, which is, like, 1,100 miles away from Tonga, which...
That's insane.
Like, if you can hear it from, like, 1,100 miles away, it must have been really loud. So, like, officials urge people in coastal areas in the West Coast, Alaska, and Hawaii to, like, stay away from the coastline and, like, evacuate, try to reach higher ground. In California, water, like, surged into Santa Cruz Harbor, and this ended up, like, damaging boats, submerging water lots, causing people to evacuate. And then at Port San Luis Harbor, waves of more than 4 feet were measured. And Jacqueline Ruthenberg, a spokesperson for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, said the agency did not expect damages from the tsunami, and stressed the importance of, like, disaster preparedness, which I think is important, just, like, having a plan going into it. Even if you don't think it's going to happen, it could. And then across the Pacific, warnings were sounded. New Zealand's National Emergency Management Agency Agency advised people in coastal areas to expect, quote, strong and unusual currents and unpredictable surges at the shore. And then on their Facebook pages, the services for, like, meteorological services for Fiji and Samoa, like, issued alerts advising people to stay away from, like, coastal areas. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably scary for them. So, but hopefully people can evacuate and kind of get away from that.
Yeah,
so.
Tsunamis are insane. They might, like, honestly, a lot of them are worse than hurricanes even.
Mm-hmm.
And it's devastating to, like, have, like, your home disrupted by a natural disaster.
Right. It's a scary thing. Like, any type of natural
even, like,
disaster.
the threat of it is just scary.
Yeah, and, like, having relatives and just living there at that time or having other people
because it could literally ruin, like, your life.
It could ruin your house. It could cost lives, you know. It could cost money. Mm-hmm. A lot of things are at stake when a natural disaster takes place.
We encourage you guys to look into it and maybe provide, like, some knowledge about it to others. And I'm sure there's probably, like if it does, like, you know, cause more damage, then there will be, obviously, relief funds that you can donate to.
Right, so. And there's always... I feel like for everything, there's always going to be a GoFundMe. Like, there always is, no matter what it is, I feel like. Literally, like, Kim Kardashian, or one of the Kardashians Kylie Jenner had a GoFundMe to become, like, a billionaire. So, like, that just goes to show you literally anything can have a GoFundMe.
Yeah, so do it for a good cause, though.
Yeah, not Kylie Jenner. Well, I mean, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Make the rich richer and the poor poorer, am I right? Okay.
Right.
Anyway, that's it for the first half for today.
Mm-hmm.
But stay tuned for the second half. We have a lot of interesting updates from Mr. Robert Durst, which I want to so excited about.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
We have a long history with Mr. Durst.
Oh, that serial killer.
Anyway.
I mean, he kind of was. Okay.
Bye. Welcome back from the break.
Hello!
So, to start off our second half, we're going to dive straight in with Mr. Robert Durst.
Yeah, so, you know...
Celine, give us some background
on
Durst.
Durst. So, basically, Robert Durst, he was convicted for, like, murdering his best friend, as I talked about. So basically what happened, so he was, like, kind of, like, accused or he was, like, a suspect for, like, murdering his ex-wife, right? So then his best friend was, like, going to, like, speak about it. They were gonna, like, interview her, like, about the whole thing. And then, like, the day before the interview, like, literally right before the interview, he murdered her.
And her name was Susan Berman.
Her name was Susan Berman. And his wife, by the way, was Kathleen McCormick Durst. And his wife disappeared, but they are suspecting that he, like, murdered his wife. And that's why he murdered his best friend, because she was going to testify against him. That's what they were thinking. And she had evidence that would, like, incriminate him. So he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, right? And, he also had a lot of health issues, too. He had bladder cancer, other physical conditions. He was old, you know. There were a lot of things happening.
I think he had COVID, too.
Right? He had COVID, too. Yeah, he had COVID. So, there was a lot of stuff. So, you know, he also, I think, was suspected of killing, like, his neighbor in Texas or something, too.
This man, okay, he's also, like, a millionaire, so...
Yeah.
He was super sketchy. He literally looks so
sketchy.
But basically, he died at the age of 78. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to laugh, but, like...
Yeah, I mean, he was not a good person.
Yeah, he's not
like, most of the time when we talk about deaths, we're like, they were such a good, inspirational person. We will remember them forever, but this one, maybe not so
We'll remember him forever, but
not in a good way.
But notoriously.
Yeah.
But, so he died at 78, in a California hospital while he was serving his life sentence in murder. His life sentence was very short-lived. Honestly, I feel like it's kind of, like, sad that he only had to live such a short time sentence.
Yeah.
Because, like, he killed him a while ago, right?
Right. So it's, like, they only really found out, like, and I don't think they ever, like, fully, like, charged him for, like, murdering his ex-wife, because, like, they didn't really, I don't know if they didn't have enough evidence. But there was a lot of circumstantial evidence and, like, clues pointing towards it, but that's not enough to actually, like, convict someone. Yeah.
So, yeah. So Mr. Lewin, who was, like, he was someone who, like, tried to, like, tie Mr. Durst to the killings of his wife and his the neighbor in Texas, and his best friend. He said that, quote, Bob Durst is a murderer, and he died a murderer no matter what the status of his legal position. So, yeah, it was really, 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 really weird. Okay, there was something that happened after he died, actually, that, like, they were gonna, like, the Mr. Durst, after he got murdered, his lawyers were, like, trying to, like, repeal his conviction or something. I have no idea, but I'm like, how can you do that when he's dead?
That's weird.
I don't know. Yeah, so, like, basically, what happened was, like, he died before, like, the appeal, which was, like, the official, sentencing and stuff, could be heard. So under California law, in the state's Court of Appeal can dismiss the appeal and order the trial to, like, set aside his September conviction. So the whole world knows that the jury found Durst guilty, but that's not what the legal record will show. So legally, he wasn't guilty because he didn't, like, finish his appeal, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like, I mean, he's dead, so why does it matter? But maybe it does.
Interesting.
So yeah,
Interesting.
it's really weird. But anyway, that's right. Mr. Durst. I hope he dies. Dies and
he is dead.
I mean, I hope he, like, dies. I mean, he's already dead, but like I hope his death. What? I don't know what I'm trying to say.
You just keep saying I hope he dies, and I'm like, he is dead.
I mean, I know he's dead. I literally just talked about how he was dead, but, like,
you hope he dies.
The only thing I say is, like, I hope, like, his family has condolences, but honestly, he's, like, so old and, like, bad.
I hope he,
I hope he has a good time with the devil. Anyway.
Alright, let's move on.
Okay, next update. We're going to talk about Mr. Bidede. Joe Biden, which is the president of the United States of America, actually made a voting rights speech on Tuesday.
He's alive, don't worry. He didn't die. This isn't another, like...
Yeah, okay.
They died update.
So, take it away, silly.
Alright, so Biden made a speech on Tuesday in Georgia about voting rights. So, there are a lot of, like, restrictive voting right, like, laws in Georgia. Like, for example, like, I'm going to talk about a little bit of them. So, basically, like, one provision of the law bans, like, third parties from handing out food and water directly to voters waiting in long lines. So, you would have to wait in this, like, long line for hours and they wouldn't hand out food and water. And a lot of, like, laws, like, directly target certain races and, like, elderly people, which makes it harder for them to vote, like, this one that I just detailed. There are a lot of things in Georgia. There are a lot of, like, restrictive voting laws that Biden wants to change. So he made a speech there, and basically his speech was about how he wanted to, like, change the filibuster in order to pass voting rights measures. So right now the filibuster, as we've said before, is basically where, so we have, like, 50-50 in the Senate, like, 50-50 split between Republicans and Democrats, but the filibuster means that you need the support of 60 people to pass something, which means that for the Democrats, you need the support of 10 different Republicans, and it's hard to get that support, and they haven't been able to pass a lot of voting legislation because they can't get the support of those Republicans. So they, basically, Biden didn't detail, like, exactly what he wants to change about the filibuster, but he did say he wants to make changes to the filibuster just in general. So he made a speech about it and about kind of, like, voting law reform and stuff like that and, like, changing the filibuster. So this was a big step, right? It's a big political stand for a president to say they should change the filibuster. And there are differing views on the subject. Like, as I said before in a past update, like, Joe Manchin, who's a Democrat and the senator of West Virginia, supports the filibuster and he doesn't want to get rid of it because he's like, if the positions were reversed and the Republicans,
right, I think, in that sense, like, because
I understand what he's saying, yeah.
Like, I'm not saying the filibuster is right, but now the Republicans love the filibuster because the Democrats have, like, a kind of upper hand,
right? So
if it was just majority, then Democrats would win every time.
Yeah, that's what Joe Manchin said. He was like, if the roles were reversed and the Republicans had the power, then we as Democrats would have no say. So you have to think about what would happen if the roles were reversed. So you never know when, like, a Republican president will be elected. So basically,
and then we like a Republican.
Yeah. So there were some bad responses to this speech. Most of the responses, people said he went too far in his speech, basically. So, like, Republican Senator Bill Cassidy claimed that he was what he said was untrue and the remarks would not unite the country. Like, at one point in the speech, Biden, like, asked if people wanted to be on the side of Dr. King, John Lewis, and Abraham Lincoln, or Confederate President George Wallace, and, like, other bad people in history. So he basically, like, he was very passionate, right? He was giving, like, examples. And a lot of people said he went too far. Like, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said he had, quote, gone a little too far in his rhetoric. And actually, Illinois Senator Dick Durbin told CNN that, quote, "It is stark and I will concrete that point. Perhaps the president went a little too far in his rhetoric. Some of us do." Rhetoric.
It's rhetoric.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Rhetoric.
Anyway, it's rhetoric. So.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, whatever. You know, it's whatever.
Yeah. Right.
Basically, also there was like another news about Biden that I just want to mention real fast. Mm-hmm. He was actually wanting to promise free, like, good quality masks to everyone. So he's doing something about that. I'm not sure exactly how he plans to, like, execute that, mm-hmm. but he did make an announcement that he wanted to make good quality masks, as in, like, surgical masks or even N95s, available to the public for free, which I think is a very good step, but I feel like it's a little late, maybe?
I don't know. I mean, I'm glad he's doing it, you know?
Yeah.
And I also heard he was gonna, like, try to, like, make tests more accessible, like, rapid tests. We do have a shortage right now, and it's bad, so.
Yeah, there's definitely a shortage in testing, masks, just everything, but we'll see more, and we'll update you on what happens with that.
Absolutely.
So, we're talking about Mr. Prince Andrew. I don't know how to say Mr.
Mr. Andrew.
Andrew. Because he kind of, like, okay, so basically what happened was Prince Andrew was a member of the royal family, but he actually had a bunch of sexual assault cases filed against him, and he actually lost all of his, like, military titles, and, like, he lost all his prestige basically because of all these scandals,
the allegations against him.
All the allegations, and a lot of them are, like, proven to be true.
Right.
So,
you know, and it's especially because he's part of the royal family. They're supposed to be symbolic and, like, represent unity in the country, and everyone looks up to their family. So when one of them, like, has sexual abuse allegations against them, and they're proven to be true, and they're, like, victims standing out talking about the abuse, like, that just reflects badly on the entire family and on that person, obviously, and
the country.
And the country, yeah. And it's just stuff like that, and I hate it when, like, it's like people in positions of power just take advantage of that, and they it's like you're supposed to be setting an example, right? You're part of the royal family. You want everyone to look up to you for good things, and that doesn't mean you have to be perfect all the time, but that never gives you the right to, like, sexually abuse people just because you're, like, high up and you have power.
And that's kind of, like, one of the main issues with, like, monarchies, because, like, I think monarchies can be useful in a lot of ways. They give people, like, a source of unity,
and I feel like it's also a source of hope to have someone to look up to, like, to have someone to rely on to.
But if that person is bad,
it really just depends whether they're good or bad. Like, it can be a good thing or a bad thing, just like having a president. Like, sometimes you hate having a president because you're like, wow, I hate them, but sometimes you're like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever, I love this president, you know?
Yeah, I think with monarchies it is a bit different because they're, like,
it's different because, number one, it's, like, hereditary rather than, like, presidents are, like, elected in, so I think that's one of the major differences. And also, like, actually, like, the Queen of England has less power than, like, President
way
Biden.
Less power.
It's really just Parliament who has most of the power in, like, Britain and stuff, so they're more for symbolic purposes. I mean, they still do work, obviously, and they still like have a purpose in the country, but they have less of, like, a solid power than just, say, like, Biden or something.
Yeah, they have less of, like, a governmental power and more of, like, a philosophical,
more of, like, a sovereign
powers.
Like, but, like, not like a sovereign that, like, makes all the rules, you know, more like.
So anyway, Prince Andrew has received several allegations, but one that's been specifically on the news lately was by a woman. I think her last name is, like, Gouffier. I don't know how to say that.
Where is it?
It's, like, Gouffier. It's not even on here, but Virginia Gouffer.
Gouffer?
Gouffre.
I don't know if it's like French or not.
I feel like it is.
Because it feels like it's spelled. I feel like anything with
but
like
anyway,
R-E.
I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Yeah.
But Gouffre, I'm just gonna call her Virginia. Virginia's accusation said that he assaulted her when she was 17 years old in the United States. So he actually like Prince Andrew made a bid, which is basically like a request to dismiss the lawsuit filed by her, saying that like it happened like a long time ago and like she doesn't like have proof or whatever. But she filed it, and the U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan for the Southern District of New York ruled that it was not fair and too premature to like consider it to just like throw it away essentially. So he got that rejected. Yeah. So Andrew's lawyers tried earlier this month to block the lawsuit, and one of Jeffrey Epstein's most prominent accusers released details of a legal settlement in which she took $500,000 from Epstein not to bring legal action. So they were like trying to like, I think they were trying to do something similar maybe. So prior to this effort, Andrew's lawyers sought to block the lawsuit on the grounds that the accuser no longer lived in the United States, which is also rejected, which makes no sense. Just because someone doesn't live in the place that they accused you to do something to them doesn't mean that it didn't happen. You know?
Doesn't mean they shouldn't be held accountable. Like
exactly.
Then like every criminal would just do like commit like steal something from a bank in like Colorado and then just move to like California.
Like, literally,
like
makes no sense. And so yeah, there's just everyone like hates Andrew as they should. But basically the lawsuit alleges that Andrew abused her in 3 locations: London, New York, and in a private island in the US Virgin Islands when she was under the age 18, so she was a minor, so he's like a pedophile. And I think the reason people are especially mad is because the Queen and the royal family have been very hesitant to speak up about the situation.
Right.
I think they have made like a couple remarks on it.
I think people get mad when like the people around them don't release statements like saying like what they did was bad, because then it almost seems like they're standing with them and like not saying anything against them. Like even if they are family, I think that everyone wants to see like say like Queen Elizabeth or like the family like releasing statements like standing with the victims, you know?
Yeah, but that hasn't been happening, so
it's
that really is awful. And I think that's the reason a lot of people in like England are really kind of like, what's going on? But in result of like all his accusations, he has lost his like title of Royal Highness in official capacity. He also has faced a lot of like withdrawal of military titles and the use of several privileges that he was able to use previously. He is basically a disgrace.
Essentially. Basically.
Yeah. A lot of people in like officials are like, maybe he's not guilty, but he definitely is.
Yeah.
But yeah, he cannot. He had a lot of titles because another part of like being in the royal family is like a lot of the men joined the military for a long period of time. Like Harry joined the military, William joined the military. Like all those royal people joined the military, and he got all of those titles revoked. So yeah,
that's not good.
Sucks for him.
That really does suck.
Kind of deserved it though.
Yeah. I mean, I'd heard that he was like really creepy, but like it's bad.
There's a lot more people too. We're talking about just one person, but there
are plenty. There are a lot of victims. So obviously, like, you know, I'm glad he's being held accountable, and like it's brave of the victims to speak out, which is something that like, you know,
people need to do more.
Yeah.
But
it's hard. Like I'm not trying to say anything like, oh, like they're just like you always have to speak out. Like you're bad if you don't speak out, because I totally like it makes sense. Like it's scary, you know.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm glad that she did.
It's important to recognize the bravery of the people who did speak out.
Yeah. Like and to hold people accountable to the best of your ability.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Okay.
That wraps up our news updates for this week.
So good news.
They might have been a little bit shabbier than usual because for good news, we went to a debate tournament yesterday and that took up a lot of time.
Yeah, so for debate tournaments, you have to be there from like 7 in the morning. I can't even speak anymore. 7 in the morning to 7 at night, so like 12 hours. So
and then
we
kind of took like an hour total.
Yeah.
And then in addition, the entire week before we were freaking out and like writing so much, so we didn't.
Yeah, so it's like we did not have time to do news updates, so they were not the best this week. So I apologize. For that.
But next week we'll be back to our regular schedule.
Yeah.
Programming.
So we're actually the episode we're posting on Friday is actually like about like the topic we did for debate.
So we're very well versed in that.
Yeah, for sure. We've done a lot of research on that.
Way too much. Actually.
Way too much.
But anyway,
yeah, we'll talk about that. So,
our good news is that we won third.
Yeah, and Ahana won second for speech too because she made a speech. It was a really great speech. Yeah, you should have.
Well, okay. Here's the thing. 2 of the judges voted me first, and then one of them voted me 5th. So that like knocked me down a place. But
yeah, I mean, her speech was really good. Though.
Okay, how can 2 people vote you 1 and then one person vote you 5?
I don't know, because 5th is second to last.
Like if all of them voted me like 3rd or 2nd, then okay, I deserve 2nd. But anyway.
Yeah, that is sad. That is sad.
Anyway, we're gonna go and enjoy your week and remember Martin Luther King Jr. because he was an amazing man and what happened to him was so unjust. So
thank you so much for listening. See you on Friday.
Bye.
Hope you tune in. Okay, bye.